Hey guys, how are you? Let's talk a little bit about racquetball here. I've been playing since probably 1980. Good sport, I love it. I still play it today. I'm 55 years old. I play 2-3 times a week and I stay in pretty good shape. Used to play tennis in high school and wasn't real good at tennis, so and I didn't like chasing the ball either. So racquetball, you only have to go a few steps to get the ball in the court. But the problem I have now, and I got to thinking about this, what this is all about this is the racket, or the style of racket that has been used, I don't know, 10 years maybe, this size, standard size, no matter what manufacturer. This is 22 inches long from handle to head, about 22 inches. Well, when I started playing in, let's say 1980, San Diego, California, this is what I played with. And back then everybody played with this because this is what we had. And construction of racquetball rackets and tennis rackets as well back then were originally made of wood and some kind of a plastic and then aluminum and titanium and graphite. Nowadays, most of the higher end rackets are a combination of graphite and titanium type mix blend, if you will, which is my favorite, but that isn't really what the racket's all about. I mean, you can damage any racket. If you hit it against the wall, I don't care what it's made of, it can break, and you will break a racket one of these days. But the whole point is, that's what we played with in the 80s. We all did. This is what they play with now, which is, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches shorter. Well, they don't make these little rackets anymore. They only make 22-inch rackets. So my thought was, well, what about the new kids? Kids or smaller frame people, teenagers that would like to get into the game of racquetball. Well, if they're only 4 foot tall, and this racket is almost 2 feet tall, that's half their height. They can't play with this, or they can't play well with this. If they have one of these, they can play, but then again, this is old school. The strings are worn out, they're 30 years old, whatever the case is, it'll still play. But so I said, well, since they don't make these little rackets anymore, let's get some, restring them, remanufacture them in a sense, and make them new school rackets in a smaller size. So this is what I've done. There's an example right here, one example of an old school brought up to new age, okay? This is a custom hybrid. It's got great strings in it. It's got polyester mainsprings. This particular one has Ashaway Monokill XL racquetball strings in it, in the mains, the up and down strings. And then the crosses are a dual core type nylon. They don't notch. They don't notch. Get that clicking, how they go click, 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 The regular rackets off the shelf that you get are either, the strings are either nylon and or synthetic gut, as it will. Natural gut is too expensive. Tennis players use that, and it's just too expensive, the natural. But most of them are synthetic gut or nylon. Okay. So anyway, this is a kid-sized, new age, get in the game racket right here. Another example, there's another one. Custom hybrid, old school racket brought up to speed, new age. Polyester strings in the mains. They're awesome. Poly strings. If you're not playing poly, you're just not playing, pretty much. I mean, poly is where it's at. It's not necessarily the tension of the strings. By the way, I'm a stringer. Obviously, I strung these. I'm a player and a stringer. And there's a misconception about string tension among players. And they say, oh, yeah, it's really strung tight, or they get them restrung and they say, I want them strung real tight. Well, you know, if you like that, that's good. But for me, I don't like that, because here's the misconception. The tighter the strings, yes, the more control you'll have, and yes, it will beat your arm up down here more, and yes, less the power. Now, if they're strung weaker, I'm not talking loose, I'm just saying less tension is more power, less stress on the arm, but then again, less control of your shot. So you want to try to find a happy medium if you can, and that depends on what kind of string you're using as well. With poly, there is no such thing as string that at 35 or 40 or 25, because poly's stiff, and when it's done, it's done. It's like you're not stretching on me anymore. That's all I got. So that's what you get. But that's the whole purpose of this whole thing, is to bring these little rackets back in so these kids, smaller frame people, teenagers can get in the game of racquetball. It's a great exercise. I love it. Been doing it since 1980 or so, and I'm 55 years old. And by the way, I played people from age, I'd say 19 to, believe this or not, 80 years old. And these guys are incredible. They're in good shape. 80 years old, can you imagine that? This is what's known as a mid-size. They call it mid-size. Back in its day, it is old school. It's been renovated. It's a little bigger than the other ones, about an inch bigger. It's got more of a string bed, but it's brought up to speed. Hybrid poly mains, nylon crosses is beautiful, and it's got the vibration dampener, by the way. Vibration dampener, so you don't beat up your arm. Okay. So that's the whole thing about this, is get these kids into the game with a racket that is their size, and it's been updated to where you can compete. I can compete with this, or this. I can compete with this. I can beat this. All you got to do is know how to handle your racket. So if you're a smaller person, you need a smaller racket. And once you master that racket, you compete with these. Now, of course, I use a 22-inch racket and have for some time, but, you know, what are the kids going to do? They can't use this, okay? Now I'll just show you the rackets that I personally play, just some of them. I'm racket crazy, I love it. But here's one of them, 22-inch, of course. This is not a hybrid. This is an E-Force Revolt. I do have a vibration dampener in there, which is good, but I'm not changing the strings. This is from the factory strings, but the thing plays good. So it's all about preferences. I mean, if you like the way it plays, then play it. So when this thing breaks, then I'll restring it. I'll put polys on there. But this is one of the rackets that I actually play. Okay. This one here is another one I play. This is an Echelon 03 Blue. Very good racket. This is a hybrid, though. Now, this has been restrung by my vibration dampener here. This is what's known as a ring racket. Ring racket, okay? But if you don't have that vibration dampener in there, then you're going to get arm shock, and we don't want that. I have polyester mains and nylon crosses in this as well, and this is a big banger. And all the manufacturers of these rackets nowadays, whether it's E-Force, Echelon, Head, Gearbox, Wilson, you know, I mean, they're all good. They have good rackets. It's all about personal preference, so whatever you like, you know. And this is one of my favorites. Again, it is an E-Force, and it's a Super 30 DC custom hybrid, restrung by myself, poly mains, nylon crosses, but you'll notice there is no vibration dampener in this. The reason being is the way E-Force has designed this racket, or the way they strung it, where they call it 0 Richter. just kind of like the Richter scale, earthquake. If you don't feel it, there's no Richter, then you can't feel any shock. So what they have done is the way they string the racket in the frame. You skip every 2 strings in the mains, so you never hit any side-by-side strings with the ball at one time. So you don't need vibration dampening on this because it's already built in. So that's a nice thing. Of course, it wouldn't hurt if you wanted to put one on there. That'd be great. But otherwise, this is new school, new age. But I want to get the kids in the game. That's why I'm bringing back the short rackets for them, because they don't make them anymore. So I'm going to call this video Intro Part 1, and hope I haven't bored you too much. And thanks for listening. Bye.